Ayan mga kameta, ito na. Pag-usapan natin, ituloy natin yung mga discussion natin kanina. Napakaganda pa naman ng moonlight ngayon at alam mo naman, pag may moonlight, it kind of also signals, no? Some need for reflection, especially yung mga full moon na yan. Now, speaking of reflections, obviously may mga iba dyan, may ibang grupo dyan na napapaisip na sila dun sa ginawa nilang bara-bara na drug war nung panahon ni Digong. Sabi nga ni Erap, bilog ang mundo, weather lang yan. Well, actually, hindi si Erap nagsabi bilog. Si Erap nagsabi weather lang yan, pero more or less yung bilog ang mundo yung sinasabi niya. Variation ng thing. No, I mean, the thing is this, may mga iba dyan, nung nasa pader sila, nasa pwesto sila, they thought na ano na sila, superhero na sila forever and they could do whatever they wanted. Now, katulad ng sinabi natin kanina, dalawa natin to. Katulad ng sinabi natin kanina, we are all totally for a war against crime, against drugs, against corruption. Kaya nga sabi ko, yung isa parang hindi natin ginawa nung time na yan, kung galit na galit si Tatay Digong sa krimen, bakit yung mga batas na laban sa corruption, yung mga batas laban sa, alam mo na, yung mga big time na mga katrapuan, ay hindi nila ginawang mas strict. Diba? At yun nga yung tragedy eh. When you raise the right questions, in terms of, we have to deal with corruption, we have to deal with crime, pero yung solution mo is actually worse. Diba? In a sense that parang lumala pa yung problema. Because one of the worst legacies of yung war on drugs na bara-bara is that you undermine any attempt at creating a semblance of rule of law. Because kung na-damage mo na yung mga institution ng isang bansa, na-damage mo na yung tiwala ng tao sa kapulisan, sa law enforcement, kung na-damage yung tiwala ng mga investors na safe yung bansa mo, ang laki ng cost nito sa isang bansa. Worse than that, ay itong allegations of tens of thousands of extrajudicial killings. At ang masaklap dyan, alam natin, marami sa mga biktima ng EJK, ito yung mga voiceless. Ito yung mga poorest of the poor Filipinos. Ito yung mga tao dun sa mga pinaka, either marginalized sectors ng society. Hindi ito yung mga tao na, to use the Habermasian term, may communicative competence, no? In order to make their story heard properly by the people, no? Ito yung mga voiceless people. So, that's why That's why hindi siguro na-appreciate ng karamihan natin mga kababayan yung depth ng humanitarian catastrophe and human rights apocalypse, no, na meron tayo nung panahon na yan. Kasi parating mga kwento lang ng pinapakinggan ng ating mga kababayan ay yung either yung propaganda ng isang banda, isang grupo na, eto na, magiging Mexico na tayo, narco state na tayo, which is total nonsense. Because anyone who knows anything about real narco states, Colombia, Mexico, and tignan mo yung advice ng President ng Colombia to Duterte noong 2016 na minura-mura lang ni Digong. Kung basahin nyo yung advice niya, kahit nagiging narco state ka, hindi ka dapat babara-bara yung solution mo. Dapat systematic ka because the medicine will kill the patient if the medicine is based on dumb diagnostics, right? Alam ng lahat ng tao yan, di ba? If you don't have proper diagnostics, you're just gonna make the thing worse. So first of all, make sure alam mo yung nangyari and then siguraduhin mo yung solution mo will make the problem go away or at least mitigate the problem. So that's why in public policy, parang ano yan parang sa medicine yan. First, based on evidence and data, you identify what is the real problem and then accordingly, you look at the range of possible solution and then you empirically assess kung etong solution na yan ay gumagana or hindi. At yun yung fundamental problem natin dun sa war on drugs natin na it was not based on an evidence-based approach to public policy. It was based on, for the lack of better term, bara-bara political will. Yung mga tatay, barangay style. Yung ginawa ni Digong, baka gumana sa Davao, which is highly questionable because many people would question the means that he used. I always say, di ba? You don't need to burn down the hen house to get the fried chicken. Di ba? Kunyari, may mga manok dyan, gusto mong gawa ng fried chicken, hindi mo kailangan sunugin yung buong nila para kumuha ng fried chicken. Kunin mo lang yung manok na yan and then surgically deal with it and then lutuin mo sa oven. You can still get the fried chicken without having to burn down the whole hen house. So, the means poisons the end kung bara-bara at dumb yung approach. Diba? So, again, yan ang problema sa iba na parang sinasabi nila, pag critical ka dun sa drug war na yan, ay ikaw gusto mo sa mga drugista, gusto mo sa mga kriminal. No, no, no. Tactics matter. Evidence-based approach matters. Alright? 21st century na po tayo. Hindi tayo sa medieval time. Alright? Pero ang problema natin is, sometimes gusto natin leader, yung parang leader ng isang 12th century medieval village. Hindi pwede ganun yung approach natin. Alright? We have to be very systematic. We have to be very scientific in that approach. Now, having said all of that, kanina interview tayo sa Monocle Magazine sa London. I-repost ko yun mamaya. Kung saan, tinanong sa atin yung situation sa Philippines pagdating sa ICC. Kasi fina-follow ito ng mga ibang bansa Nakikita nila talaga na things are moving. So, ang in-explain ko na pagdating kay BBM, obviously, hugas kamay siya. Kasi, ayun yung mga banggan, yung kabilang grupo, di ba? So, sasabihin niya, we're not gonna lift a finger. But at the same time, they also did not lift a finger to stop yung investigations na nangyari and almost concluded by the International Criminal Court. So, konfirmado na ngayon, alam na ng lahat. It's not even an open secret. It's a confirmed fact na the ICC was able to gather all the evidence and data, to talk to the witnesses. And I'm sure, katulad ng sinabi natin, yung usapan natin ni Sir Ronald Llamas, yung mga investigators na yan, hindi naman sila bara-bara na pupunta dyan. Kung alam nila, wala silang protection. So there should have been a certain degree of protection from the law enforcement agencies and the relevant agencies sa mga investigators na yan. Kasi syempre sensitive yung ginagawa nila, di ba? At maraming mga involved dyan na may interest na hindi matutuloy itong ISIS na yan. Because of course, ang daming including people from the law enforcement na were involved in the drug war operations, di ba? So that means ewan ko dun sa sinasabi na not lifting a finger. But obviously, may level of protection and safety and reassurance yung mga ICC investigators na yan. So, that tells you na itong panic mode ng isa dyan, di ba? And sa tingin ko, because siya yung pinakamadrama, kaya kitang-kita natin, Diyos ko, inisip ko ngayon, pag umabot ito sa ICC, yung warrant of arrest, kung umabot ito sa korte, nako, ma-imagine mo yung mga drama na gagawin ng iba. Ayan, kawawa naman daw yung ganito, ganyan, ganyan. Well, speaking of kawawa, sana inisip nila yung mga kawawang pamilya na biktima ng EJK. Alam natin, based on the reports, more than 100 children were victims of the EJK. Not because they were directly necessarily, well, yung kay Kian de los Santos, yes, and a number of other cases, they directly kinota lang sila, di ba? Alam naman natin yung katotohanan dyan Booking na Pero yung iba, nadamay lang kasi yung drug suspect or kunyaring drug suspect, yung tatay, yung nanay, yung binaral-baril nila lahat, yan, nadamay yung mga bata. More than 100 children were killed and this is the data from 2019 and all. Sana yung mga yun ang tinanong nila, di ba? Yung mga pamilya na apektado. Alam din natin na potentially, hindi lang few thousand, but tens of thousands. Because yung PNP mismo, umamin sila dun sa datos nila a few years ago na there were, 20,000? More than 20,000 deaths under investigations, DUIs. So, kaya para sa akin, napaka walang kwenta yung argument na mas safe ang Philippines. Mas safe for who? Paano naging mas safe ang isang bansa kung meron kang 20,000 unexplained deaths? Homicides, murders, or EJKs according to some, right? Yun yung problema. Anong klaseng pulvoronic na pag-iisip yan? Nasabihin mo mas safe ka, ay wala na mga snatcher kasi okay lang, pinatay lahat ng mga snatcher. Like, paano naging mas safe ang isang community sa isang modern era? Hindi naman tayo siguro medieval or prehistoric, di ba? Hindi naman ito year zero, di ba? Or year 1200. 21st century ito. You don't solve problems by just, eliminating half of the population. Yung ganyang pag-iisip doesn't belong to the 21st century. So I think, I'll be honest, one of the hardest questions I had dun sa interview natin kanina sa Monocle Magazine, I'll try post, it was, yung mga communities na apektado dito sa EJK, will they come out? Will they speak out? And will people listen to them? At sabi ko nga, these are the voiceless people. 99.9% ng mga nabiktima, kung binasa niyo yung book ni Patricia Vinalista, kung tinignan niyo mga reports ng different groups, kung tinignan niyo yung mga interviews sa mga tao na alam nila yung nangyayari, 99.9% ng mga tao, yung mga poorest of the poor Filipinos na na walang political voice, right? I just sincerely hope there will be more documentaries, more efforts. I mean, si Pepe Jokno, some of his earliest works, yung Encuentro ba yan, among others, had to do something about yung EJ case and drug war. I think even yung Davao na cover niya in some of his earlier works. Eh. We need, yung parang Gumborza style kind of documentaries, talagang highlight, where talagang kinakausap mo yung mga biktima, yung mga bata, and you give them voice. So that yung mga iba na walang puso, yung mga iba na, yun ang isa pang problema ko sa kultura natin eh. Ang taas ng simpatya natin sa mga trapo at sa mga mayayaman oligarchs, ganun. Pag sila biglang nahihirapan, magdadrama-drama sila, mag-antics-antics sila, ang dapat simpatya natin ay dun sa mga pinaka mahirap, yung mga pinaka voiceless, yung mga pinaka na biktima. Dapat doon yung sympathy natin. Ang problema natin, yung iba pa nga, sympathy pa nga nila sa China, pa sa Pilipinas. Ayan. Which tells you something is going on here. Diba? Yung iba, kawawa naman ng China, wag natin i-provoke. Parang ganun din yung pag-iisip, diba? Ang simpatya mo, doon sa mga inakusa, or hindi lang akusa, diba? Na involved sa mga massive blunderous policies that cost lives of thousands of people. Guys, maawa kayo doon. Dapat naawa kayo dun sa mga biktima, yung mga voiceless people lang walang power na, kamusta mo? Ayan, mga kameta. And tuloy. No, I mean, this is a very green topic, guys. And for me nga, kaya nga, may moral crisis talaga tayo. May moral crisis tayo. Kasi, kung tinignan mo talaga, kung tunay kang Kristiyano, kung nakita mo yung mensahe ni Heso Kristo, or kahit anong religion ka, I mean, any Abrahamic religion, or even non-Abrahamic religion, compassion is fundamental to that. The golden rule, you don't want others to do to you what don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. Di ba yun yung golden rule eh? Unless, of course, medyo crazy kaya sadomasochist kayo pag-usapan niyan. But going back to this, it's a moral crisis and we have to come to terms with that. And one way of coming to terms with that is not to wait for people to come to terms. You have to talagang confront people with the facts, with the horrible facts na libo-libo sa ating mga kababayan na pinakamahirap ay pinatay under the most questionable circumstances. Di ba yung ginawa ka sa Gumburza? Yun ang hindi ko masyado na-emphasize dun sa isang video natin. Yung kitang-kita niya sa Gumburza, di ba? Yung parang ginawa sa kanila, yung parang nanlaban eh. Pinaplant lang sila, di ba? Yung reaction ni Zamora, the ridiculousness of the charges, and eventually was executed on those ridiculous charges. Parang ganun yung nangyari sa nanlaban eh. Parang ginawa kay Padre Zamora, di ba? How they gamed the system, how they came up with mumbo-jumbo cases, the impunity of it, the ridiculous impunity of it, the injustice of it, the inanity of it, di ba? So, ako, there has to be a reckoning with that. There has to be a reckoning with that. And there has to be a moral reckoning. Syempre, marami naman sa atin, hindi naman police, hindi naman gobyerno, hindi naman directly involved. Pero morally, yung iba sa atin ay mukhang nag-enjoy dun sa nangyaring kababalakan na yan, di ba? So those people have to be confronted with the facts. Ako naman, naniniwala ko talaga, unfortunately, there are always going to be kulto-kulto. There's always going to be fanatics. But they're going to be a small minority or at most a small plurality. But the vast majority of people, they have to be guided in the right direction. They have to be reminded of their Christian values, their fundamental human values. Hindi lang ito human rights na politika eh. Ito yung humanity eh, yung humanity natin. So, for me, kung nakita mo yung isa nagpapanig dyan, nagpapaawa effect and all of that, that means maybe tama yung sinasabi ni Trillanes. Tama yung sinasabi ni Trillanes na talaga in the books na, in the pipelines na itong ICC warrant of arrest. So, I think this is the difference we have with kasi si Attorney Carranza, I see where his skepticism comes from, and he raised some very valid questions na hindi na-raise ng iba. I completely also agree na you shouldn't raise people's expectations unnecessarily. But I don't think you would see this kind of drama and all and school of drama ganyan kung wala talaga nangyari. I think something is going on there. And obviously, kung ikaw ay si Marcos Jr., di ba? Ang sabi ni Harry, ex-human rights lawyer, sabi niya, mag-uhugas kamay yan. Baka yun nga yung nangyari, di ba? So, that's why I'm saying, as much as PBM doesn't want confrontation, is conflict avoidant, some sort of clash is gonna happen if talagang ICC will go forward. And as I said, ICC, hindi yan maarabara mag-isip. If they're gonna move ahead with warrants of arrest or anything like that, they're gonna make sure first na may certain degree of compliance na makukuha nila sa government of the Philippines. And it's very possible that the ICC will not move forward unless there's also pressure from other Western allies and partners on the president, right? To do the right thing. All right? To do the right thing and move in the right direction. Hindi nga natatakot na. Suspicious na rin ako. And sensitive kasi yung topic. But you get what I'm saying, mga kameta. So, in a way, baka, ito na yung reckoning na hinintay natin. But tama naman si Carranza Attorney Carranza, na warrant of arrest will just be the first step. And the warrant of arrest is not justice per se. It's just a procedural step towards justice. So what we're hoping to see is coming to terms, moral terms, bakit ang dami sa atin ay tahimik, and worse, marami sa atin ay sumuporta pa dun sa carnage na nangyari ng mga taon na yan. So there has to be a moral reckoning there. And as far as justice is concerned, there has to be also restitution. Not only in terms of compensation, dun sa mga biktima, taking care of yung mga victims, yung mga bata especially, but also in terms of rebuilding yung mga institutions na damage dito, especially yung mga kapulisan, yung mga ibang ahensya na involved dito. There has to be really a reconstruction and restitution of that. Now, obviously, the list is very long, and since yung ating kasalukuyan na presidente ay not necessarily isang, Swedish social democrat or progressive Bernie Sanders type of leader, we have to temper our expectations in terms of the damage control and restitution and the justice aspect is concerned. But at least we're seeing some movement. And parati ko sinasabi, we should not be just, nakatenga lang or nakatunga nga. We have to be part of the conversation and process. So I always use my little voice here, because, we're just being interviewed all around the world, to encourage the movement in the right direction by the current president, by the current administration. And when it comes to politicos, sabi nga ni Bernie Sanders, you have to keep their legs or foot close to the fire, because that's when they're gonna do the right thing. They're not gonna do the right thing on their own terms, because syempre, magkakalculate din mga yan, ayaw natin banggayan nga ito, ayaw natin banggayan ganyan. So, there has to be pressure from the people. There has to be pressure, there has to be mobilization, there has to be ingay. Mahalaga yan. The same way na yung ingay, kailangan natin yan para ma-etsapuera yung, hindi etsapera, pero etsapuera yung PI, yung People's Initiative niya. So, those are the things I'm looking at. So yun, I mean, it's quite telling, no, for yung isang quote-unquote senator to go on this dramatic move, no? And my goodness, expect nyo pag, if ever lang, of course, it's not assured kung makulong yung mga yan sa Hague or ma-arrest yan, ako, magdadrama yung mga yan ng big time. So, dapat handa na kayo yung response yung once magdadrama-drama yung mga yan, no? Yung iba dyan, biglang mag-wheelchair na, yung iba dyan, biglang may neck brace na, yung iba dyan, biglang alam nyo na yung kalakaran, di ba? Yun ang problema sa ating bansa Parati tayo naawa dun sa mga nasa poder, at kahit nahuli na silang, huling-huli na sila, ay, matanda na, kawawa naman, ay, kasi nga. Pero dapat ang maawa tayo sa ating bayan, maawa tayo sa ating mga institusyon, sa demokrasya, at maawa tayo most of all dun sa mga biktima ng abuso ng mga nasa poder. Alright, on that note, thank you very much mga kameta. God bless and talk to you soon.